Just when we thought the WNBA couldn't get any more dramatic, Caitlyn Clark drops a bombshell, heading to Europe and breaking records while leaving the WNBA in the dust. And guess who's not happy? A'ja Wilson. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard the news. Caitlyn Clark, the superstar who's been carrying the WNBA on her back, has made her big move overseas. That's right, folks. Europe has claimed the crown jewel of women's basketball and the WNBA. Well, they're left picking up the pieces. But the real drama? It's all about A'ja Wilson and how she's handling this, and trust me, it's not pretty. Now, let's rewind a bit. Caitlyn Clark has been nothing short of a sensation, drawing in massive crowds, breaking records, and single-handedly making people care about women's basketball. While the WNBA has been struggling to maintain viewership, Clark was the reason they even had eyes on them in the first place. Millions of viewers, primetime TV slots, Clark was the star of the show. But let's be real, the WNBA hasn't exactly made things easy for her. From biased officiating to constant rough play on the court, Clark had been dealing with a lot. And when she spoke out about how physical the games were getting, especially the targeting by other players, it became clear she was being pushed out, and maybe. That was exactly what some players wanted. Players like A'ja Wilson, who have made no secret of their disdain for Clark. A'ja Wilson has had an incredible career, no doubt. But here's the thing, while Wilson was in the WNBA collecting her accolades, she couldn't quite bring the same star power that Clark did. The numbers don't lie. Clark drew millions of viewers, breaking records in the process, while the WNBA has struggled to even break 400,000 viewers without her. And now, with Clark in Europe, Wilson is blaming Clark for the WNBA's collapse. Yes, you heard that right. Wilson thinks it's Clark's fault the league is struggling. But hold on a minute. Wasn't it the league's job to support their star player, to protect her from being unfairly targeted, and, I don't know, maybe not make her feel like she was walking into a war zone every game? Instead of doing that, the WNBA allowed Clark to be beaten down game after game. It's no wonder she packed her bags and left. The tension between Wilson and Clark has been bubbling for a while, and it's not just about basketball, it's about who gets the spotlight. And while A'ja Wilson has made some not-so-subtle jabs at Clark, even pulling the race card at times, it's become increasingly clear Wilson can't handle that Clark was simply the bigger draw. But Wilson's outrage isn't fooling anyone. The fact that Clark's departure has left the WNBA scrambling to stay afloat just goes to show how vital she was to the league's success. Wilson may be a star, but let's be honest, she's no Caitlyn Clark. Now, let's talk about the numbers. When Clark was still in the WNBA, she was pulling NFL-sized viewership. On an NFL Sunday, over 1.8 million people tuned in to watch Clark play. Think about that for a second. The NFL had to take notice of the WNBA because of Caitlyn Clark. And then, just last week, without Clark, the WNBA's Big Aces Liberty matchup barely brought in 900,000 viewers on another NFL Sunday. That's a massive drop, and it's no coincidence. Without Clark, the league is, well, let's just say it's not looking good. And Wilson is out here pointing fingers, claiming that Clark somehow owes the WNBA something. Excuse me, Clark owes the WNBA. The league should be thanking her for the attention she brought, because before her, it was basically crickets. And then there's the drama surrounding Clark's departure. Wilson and some of the other players are acting like Clark betrayed them by leaving. But let's be real. Why should she stay in a league that's more interested in tearing her down than building her up? The constant physical play, the biased officiating, it was clear that the WNBA was never going to let Clark fully shine. And that's their loss. Clark saw the writing on the wall and decided to make a smart career move. She went where her talent would be appreciated, Europe. Over there, she's getting the respect she deserves, the protection she needs, and, oh yeah, the money that the WNBA could never offer. And guess what? Europe is loving her. Their ratings are through the roof, and Clark is already becoming a global basketball icon. Meanwhile, back in the States, A'ja Wilson is scrambling. She's still trying to hold onto the WNBA's sinking ship, and the more she complains about Clark, the more it becomes obvious she just can't fill those shoes. Wilson is a great player, but the truth is, without Clark, the WNBA is in serious trouble. In fact, the league's playoff ratings have plummeted since Clark's departure. Just the other day, they couldn't even muster for 100,000 viewers for a playoff game. And yet, somehow, Wilson thinks that throwing tantrums and playing the blame game is going to fix things. It's not. The WNBA had their star, and they blew it. Caitlyn Clark was the future of women's basketball. She had the talent, the charisma, and most importantly, the ability to bring in massive audiences. But instead of nurturing that, the WNBA let her be dragged down by petty politics, unfair treatment, and constant attacks from other players. And now they're paying the price. So, what's next for the WNBA? Without Caitlyn Clark, their ratings are in freefall, and with A'ja Wilson leading the charge, it's hard to see how they'll recover. Maybe it's time for the league to take a hard look in the mirror and realize they had a superstar and let her slip away. Meanwhile, Caitlyn Clark is thriving overseas, making history, and proving once again why she's one of the greatest basketball players of our time.